History's insane fashion trends literally killed people. Imagine wearing a dress so beautiful that being drop dead gorgeous means you might actually drop dead. In the Victorian era, looking killer
Ew.
wasn't just a metaphor,
Ugh.
it was a literal death sentence. Here are three insane fashion trends that gave drop dead gorgeous a whole new meaning. By the late 1800s, the Industrial Revolution gave the new middle class two dangerous things: disposable income and free time. Suddenly, everyone was flocking to the theater, opera, and galleries, absolutely desperate to show off the latest styles. It was the ultimate heyday of fashion, provided you survived it. And that came with some intense fashion trends. Thanks to the invention of the sewing machine, trends changed rapidly, shifting from massive room-swallowing bell skirts to suffocating figure-hugging styles by the 1870s. Victorian Britain was said to be bathed in green. In 1814, a new vibrant green dye was developed and found its way into everything: clothing, wallpaper, and even fake flowers. Scheele's green was invented in 1775. Prior to that, there were few options available to produce green textiles, which made any very costly. Scheele's green produced a yellow-green color that faded easily, but alas, Paris green was introduced in 1814 as an improvement. It offered a deeper emerald color that resisted fading, but there was one snag. That gorgeous emerald green shade was the result of mixing copper and arsenic trioxide, a highly toxic chemical. Yes, literal rat poison. When it was moistened with, say, sweat, the chemicals leached from the dye and entered the skin, making its use as clothing dye deadly. Young women didn't just wear green dresses, they became green from the inside out. After ingesting massive quantities of arsenic, leading to severe fingernail loss, oozing skin sores, vomiting green liquid, and agonizing deaths. High-profile tragedies such as the agonizing death of 19-year-old artificial flower maker Matilda Schuer in 1861 brought media attention to the horrors of the trade. Medical journals began warning the public that a single green ball gown carried enough poison to kill a room full of admirers. The dangerous pigment gradually fell out of fashion and was replaced by safer synthetic alternatives towards the end of the 19th century. You're familiar with the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. Turns out, Lewis Carroll wasn't the only person who thought hatters were acting a little strange. Throughout the 19th century, hat makers used mercuric nitrate to treat animal fur before turning it into felt. The process exposed workers to mercury compounds, often in poorly ventilated workshops. Though it wasn't known then, mercury is a neurotoxin. Hatters were frequently exposed to mercury nitrate. After years of inhaling vapors from the mercury, hat makers began to exhibit some very bizarre and disturbing symptoms. In its early stages, the poisoning would show up as rashes, muscle pain, digestive issues, and mouth sores. After longer exposure, however, the symptoms became more severe, veering into a neurological direction. Prolonged exposure led to mood swings, hallucinations, and erratic behavior, often described as madness. This condition became known as the Mad Hatter disease. Chronic poisoning, known as erethism, led to tremors, or the Danbury shakes, and mental instability. Mercury was finally eliminated from U.S. hat manufacturing in 1941 when manufacturers agreed to replace it with safer alternatives. Collectors of vintage hats, be warned. And then there was the Victorian obsession with looking unnaturally pale. Although this particular cosmetic dates back much earlier to the 16th century. The desire for an extremely pale complexion continued to influence beauty standards well into the Victorian era. One famous product was Venetian cerusse, sometimes referred to as Venetian white. It was essentially a white cosmetic made with lead compounds and was prized for creating that smooth porcelain-like complexion that aristocratic Europeans considered fashionable. And it worked. Unfortunately, so did the lead poisoning. Recipes from the period called for ingredients including water, vinegar, and white lead. Repeated lead exposure damaged the skin, caused hair loss, and led to serious lead poisoning. Heavy prolonged exposure affected the nervous system and other organs, and in severe cases, fatalities. And because nothing says healthy glow like gradually damaging your health, the cosmetic was highly sought after among wealthy women. It's also been suggested that Queen Elizabeth I used lead-based cosmetics extensively, and that chronic exposure may have contributed to her health problems and early death. It wasn't until the 18th century that scientific studies officially concluded the severity of health problems caused by the presence of lead in cosmetics. By the Victorian era, the ideal of pale porcelain complexion was still very much alive. Fortunately, lead was not in the recipe to achieve it anymore. Fashion sometimes involves suffering. In the Victorian era, that idea went way too far. Let me know what wacky thing you've ever done to look fashionable. Thanks for watching, and be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. See you next video.